It's all yours, President Bryan.
All right. Welcome everyone to the regular weekly meeting of the Hudson Rotary Club here on the first week in June. We will start today's meeting with an invocation by Sean.
Thanks, Brian. This is a prayer from St. Teresa. May there be peace within. May you trust your highest power, that you are exactly where you are meant to be. May you not forget the infinite possibilities that are born of faith. May you use those gifts that you have received and pass on the love that has been given to you. May you be content knowing that you are a child of God. Let this presence settle into your bones and allow your soul the freedom to sing and dance. It is there for each and every one of you. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Very nice.
We're going to do something just a little bit different for the pledge today if this works, so bear with me.
Oh.
Speaking of our flag, I was walking through a county courthouse square, and on a park bench, an old man was sitting there. I said, "Your old courthouse is looking kind of run down." He said, "No, it'll do for our little town." I said, "Well, your flagpole is leaning a little bit, and that's a ragged old flag you got hanging in it." He said, "Son, have a seat." So I sat down. He said, "Is this the first time you've been to our little town?" I said, "Yes, sir, it is." He said, "Well, I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got that hole in that flag up there when Washington brought her across the Delaware. And she got a powder burn the night that Francis Scott Key sat watching her writing, 'Oh, say, can you see?' And she got a little rip down in New Orleans with Packingham and Jackson tugging at her seams, and she almost fell down at the Alamo beside the Texas flag. But she waved on, though. And then on Flanders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. And she turned blood red in World War II. She's hung limp and low a time or two. And then there was Korea and Vietnam, Kuwait and Iraq, and now Afghanistan. Well, she went where she was sent by her Uncle Sam. And she's waved from our ships upon the briny foam, and now they hardly waver at all here back at home. In her own land, she's been abused. She's been burned and dishonored, denied and refused, and even the government for which she stands has been scandalized across the land. Yeah, she's getting threadbare and she's wearing thin, but she's in pretty good shape for the shape she's in. You see, son, she's been through the fire before, but I believe she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up each morning, and we bring her down slow every night, and we don't let her touch the ground. And then we fold her up tight. You know, on second thought, I do like to brag, because I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag.
And as Rotarians, in the things that we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Randy, I will toss the meeting to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our visitors and everybody who's made the meeting. A couple notes. Birthdays this month, Mr. John Potter. Happy birthday. I believe it's on, the 2nd? And then Paul Gavix is on the 5th. He's not here today. So you see him, and I'm not sure we should sing for you, John, on a Zoom. Happy birthday. So
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome. We also have some anniversaries. Sonia, did I say that right? And she's not even here to hear it. She's 9 years, and Isaac, you're on 7.
Good job.
Now get a haircut. Happy Bucks. Anybody happy today? Bueller. A little small crowd today, but that's all right.
I got a happy buck. I got a
All
haircut
right.
yesterday and it felt good. So I gotta share. I needed it. It was getting around my ears. My wife said she couldn't see my ears and it was bothering me. So
We're all moving back to bipedal. Any other happy bucks? Any other?
I got a happy buck, Randy.
All right, Brian.
My oldest daughter, Anna, had a new job working at Christian Community Home,
Nice.
certified nursing assistant.
Yeah, she probably doesn't pay rent now. She's back home, huh?
Yeah, well, she's been back home for Madison for almost 3 months now.
Smart girl.
So
Make Pa pay for the bills.
yeah, it's been great.
Oh,
The house is full.
means your heart is full.
That's right.
Yeah. Any other happy bucks? Any announcements we'll move to? None for you, Brian?
I have an announcement, Randy.
Okay, go ahead.
Just wanted to update everyone in the club on the Taste of Hudson event. So we postponed the event, as you may remember, from May to September 10. And then periodically, we've been kind of reviewing whether we still want to host on September 10th. And we were going to make the decision at the end of last month and then decided to wait 2 more weeks. So here in the middle of this month, I'll get back together with Tom Van Pelt and probably the leadership from both clubs. And I believe at that point we will have to make a go, no-go decision. We do have some sponsors that have already committed, including 2 platinum level sponsors. And a number of restaurants have expressed interest in doing the event in September. So I think that if we decide to move forward with it, we would have enough in sponsorships and enough in restaurant vendors to hold some type of event. I don't know that it'll be as large as last year, but we'll see. It seems like people are wanting to do it. So it'll be a question of whether we should.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, Mary. You're on, there you go.
Just a wild, crazy comment. If you want to have it, if you could find something that's not too expensive to wear around you, like a 3-foot inner tube, that everybody had it so they couldn't get, 3 feet plus 3 feet is 6 feet. I've heard him talk about this. You might be able to find something.
I think that's a great idea, Mary, and some of us already have that interview, which is why we love this event so much.
Very nice. Any other announcements? Seeing none, no happy bucks. We will go to Mr. Isaac for a presentation.
Let's do a Rotary Minute first.
Sorry.
So I have some words from Rotary that were put out in light of recent events. At Rotary, we have no tolerance for racism. Promoting respect, celebrating diversity, demanding ethical leadership, and working tirelessly to advance peace are central tenets of our work. We have more work to do to create more just, open, and welcoming communities for all people. We know there are no easy fixes and that challenging conversations and work lie before all of us. Rotary's strength has long been our ability and commitment to bringing people together. We will tap into that strength now as we stand with those who are working for peace and justice. Rotary will do our part to listen, learn, and take action to ensure that we continue to contribute to making positive change. And that is my Rotary Minute. And back to Isaac for introducing our speaker. Our guest speaker, Dave Newman, has been a Rotarian since 1982 and is a member of the Arden Hills Shoreview Rotary Club. He is the past president of the Fridley Rotary Club and was also a member of the Stillwater Sunrise Club. Dave has held a variety of leadership positions in our Rotary District, including for the 12 years as the chair of Fast for Hope. Dave has made 12 trips to Nicaragua. He is the recipient of the Service Above Self Award from Rotary International and is a major donor to the Rotary Foundation. By profession, he is a residential real estate developer and is a member of the board of directors of Tradition Capital Bank in Edina and North Oaks. So here to share more about Fast for Hope in District 5960 is Dave Newman.
Thank you, Isaac. Let's hope once again this works. So are you able to see my screen share? I don't see it. You got it? Let me see. I'm not seeing it, so I can't advance it. Try this once more. Worked yesterday.
Dave, you should just be able to use your arrow keys if you're in the PowerPoint presentation window.
I tried that, Isaac.
Oh.
See what we got here. For some reason, when I did share screen, I might get out of here. Did this move for you, Isaac?
It certainly did, Dave.
Okay, I'll work it this way. I got two screens. One thing I would just point out is that I think everybody now gets the emails from Kathy Hewitt, but Kathy sent out an email this morning about the Friday program tomorrow morning, and it sounds quite interesting about some techniques and skills of how to de-escalate tense situations. And so if people didn't see it, I'd bring that to your attention. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak to you. Your club's been a great supporter of Fast for Hope throughout the time we've been in Nicaragua, so I appreciate this opportunity. What we're going to talk about is, what is Fast for Hope? What have we learned in the 12 years we've been in the Nicaragua initiative, and what are our plans for moving forward? Now, my screen didn't move. Okay, Isaac, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop out and go back in and do it again. Can you see that?
We can see your screen now, Dave.
Did it move?
It's moving.
Hey, for some reason I got the Surface Pro and it just isn't really compatible with Zoom. Anyway, so Fast for Hope is a district-wide program. It's supported by the district. It's not a club-initiated program. It's a district-wide initiated program. It's unique to our district. Nobody remembers exactly when it started, probably in the 80s. And it got its name because the original concept was that for one meal a year, the Rotarians would forego that meal, and the cost of that meal would then be donated to a district-wide project. That was the original source of funding. For the most part, it doesn't involve foundation dollars other than some specific projects. Our goal is for every Rotarian to give $10 per year. Most often that's done through the club level. But the benefit of this is that we don't have restrictions that you do with the foundation dollars. It allows us to be more creative and more innovative. It allows us to make a long-term commitment somewhere, to take risks, to try new ideas, and to make mistakes. We knew going into this we were going to make mistakes. The key to us was not to be afraid of making mistakes, but to make sure we learn from those mistakes. You will see that this is RI's vision statement. It came out about 3 years ago, and I would suggest to you it's very consistent with what we're trying to do with Fast for Hope. Let me get rid of this. So the basis of the Fast for Hope model is that in the early 2000s, an economist by the name of Jeffrey Sachs who wrote a book called The End of Poverty. And he maintains that we're the first generation that has the ability, economic ability, and extreme poverty throughout the world. At the time, extreme poverty was defined as living on $1 a day or less. It's now $1.90 a day or less. And his real big premise was that all too long, we've focused on one specific issue, one specific project. And that really doesn't help a community in extreme poverty get to the level where they can then move on from themselves. And a great example is water wells. Water wells do a wonderful job of reducing the incidence of waterborne diseases, but they really don't improve the economic viability of a community. And his premise is there's a myriad of issues that keep a community in extreme poverty. So you really need to work with the community on a whole rather than just one specific need. He spoke at the Rotary International Convention in Copenhagen in 2007. A number of our district leaders were there. They heard him speak. They were impressed, and they came back and they charged a Fast for Hope committee to see if we could emulate that model. Back in 2007, what we were looking to do was very unique. It's not nearly as unique today as it was 13 years ago. We tried to find a model we could find. We couldn't find one, so we were audacious enough to think that we could do it on our own. As you study the issue of poverty, there's a great documentary called Poverty, Inc. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Netflix, and really focuses on attempts to address poverty in both Haiti and Africa. But what it talks about is a lot of the unintended consequences. Where we come in from the north, from the Western Europe, we come in with the best of intentions, but we make so many mistakes that quite often we make things worse. And so it's really an eye-opening experience. A book I encourage everybody to read is Toxic Charity by Bob Lupton. Bob worked in the inner city of Atlanta for several years. He led a number of efforts to try to revitalize and deal with extreme poverty. And he talks about the same sort of thing, the mistakes we make in dealing with poverty, that so often we tend to provide charity rather than to try to make sustainable differences. The book is fairly easy to read. It's a fast read. My suggestion, if you read it, is read the first half carefully and skim the second half. But then he's got a sequel to it called Charity Detox. And then he talks about some of the remedies and approaches we can take. So the first one describes the problems and the errors, and the second one talks about some of the approaches. We had Bob Lupton come up about 2 years ago to speak to a Rotary event. But that's really some of the things we've learned is that for all too long, we've been addressing the issue of relief and that we deal with poverty in a sustainable way. And there's a myriad of issues that really keep people in extreme poverty. So in 2007, we decided we wanted to start this initiative and take this journey. We'd had a GSC team recently in Nicaragua, or in Latin America. They spent some time in Nicaragua, and one of them was involved with Guardian Angels Church in Woodbury that had a connection with an organization called Kairos Managua. So we decided that's as good a place as any to start, and they went down there. We decided there was an opportunity to try to develop this model in Nicaragua. And one of the things we liked about Nicaragua, it's an easy to get to. It's 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours from Atlanta, I should say. It's got a fairly well-developed transportation system in the western part of the country, which is where most everybody lives. Spanish is the primary language, so it's really easy for us to get translators. At the time, it was the second poorest country in Latin America. It's now the third poorest country, so there's a real need for what we're trying to do. And up until 2 years ago, it was probably one of the most peaceful, safest countries in Latin America. The NGO we work with, non-governmental organization, is Kairos. They're based in Managua. Managua is the nation's capital. And then we're now working in a community. We've had some fits and starts. One of the things we learned is how careful we got to be in picking the right community. But we've now been in the community of El Caroso, which is about 120 families, about an hour and a half outside of Managua. So some things we've learned, as I talked about, is that all too often we apply relief rather than development or rehabilitation. Historically, we think we know the answers. We're type A's, we're successful business people and successful in our careers. So we have a tendency to do things for people rather than with them, not realizing their untapped capacity. One of the things we've learned is that we can't identify the need. The community needs to identify the need. We go in there and we think we know what they need, but we have to stand back and we have to let the community make that decision. And sometimes we're going to disagree with it. We have to let the community identify the solution. We may think we know the solution, but the community needs to drive this bus. The community needs to be the first investor. Quite often when I go to Nicaragua, the question is, what are you going to do for us? And my answer always is, I don't know until I know what you're going to do. They need to be the first investor. You need to move at the pace of the community. People living in extreme poverty are working constantly, trying to survive to the next day. They don't have a lot of time to go to training. They don't have a lot of time to go to workshops and work on projects. It's going to be a slower pace. We need to recognize that. And as I noted earlier, the community needs to meet a certain criteria. When you deal in communities in extreme poverty, they're very creative, they're very smart. A lot of them learn to live on handouts. And if you're going to work in a community that's dependent upon getting things for free, it's going to be a long, tough slog. The one I skipped over because I think it's the most important is we really learned about the importance of investing in individuals. If you look at the history of Nicaragua, it was occupied by the Marines in the early 1900s. Then you had 3 generations of Somoza dictators. In the last 30, 40 years, they've had 2 major civil wars. They've had hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes. The community, and I would suggest that many countries in extreme poverty have some type of similar background. If you think about it, if you live in that kind of situation, you don't necessarily trust your neighbors. You trust your family. So they learn to organize around the family and really not as a community. So as we've gone in, or one of the things we've done is work with them to start to develop the skills to think as a community, to work as a community, to start to trust their neighbors. Things like how you reach consensus, how do you make decisions? It's in many ways a new experience. How to think for yourself. Nicaragua is described as a culture of sí, señor, a culture of obedience. How do you trust your own voice to make decisions that you're right and that you don't have to look to leaders to make decisions for what you want your community to become? In the lower right-hand side, you'll see a picture. The woman with her back to you is Idalia. She was up here with another woman from the community in Carol Weigel's time of Carol Weigel's district conference. After that, she went back to Nicaragua. She ran for municipal council, got elected. We used to always meet in Idalia's front room, and the floor was hard packed dirt. About 2.5 years ago, we had a group down there, and they were meeting there once again in the front room. And this time, there was beautiful linoleum on the floor. So it was a big difference. And throughout the meeting with them, people from the community would keep showing up, and she'd excuse herself, go out the back of the house, and come back. And what they eventually learned is that she was selling cold beer out of the back of her house to then generate money and to provide for her family. This is what happens when people start to get confidence and start to develop skills. What I used to tell people is I never encourage people to get in business of selling beer to provide for the family, but then I remember my old Rotary Club has a Brewer's Bazaar every year, so maybe she's just being a good Rotarian. But that skill she learns, that confidence, that ability to trust her own decisions, that can't be taken away. Schools can be knocked down, wells can be destroyed, but that confidence won't be taken away. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the accomplishments of what we've done in there, because there's some really exciting things I want to get to. But we have a children's program that works with kids in the grade school, some women's advocacy groups. One of the things that we've done with a district grant is we have a pharmacy program, healthcare initiative. We got 2 pharmacy kits, which are really kind of high-end first aid kits. And we position one in the northern part of the community and the southern part of the community. They're run by the community. The people who host the kits had to go through 3 weeks of extensive training, so they learn how to use the supplies, what they're for. And what's happened now is when community members are sick, they go to one of those 2 homes, they get the supplies, they pay for them, and the money they use for the supplies are then used to refurbish the kits. Since then, they've asked us to provide them some diabetes testing kits and a nebulizer. So it's working quite well. There's a reading program because books aren't commonly available in homes. That's at Fits and Starts. It seems to be working fairly well right now. It's been modified. But again, it's a success that the community has figured out how to make it work. The number one driver for the community is the road. They're about 3.5 miles from the nearest community with a paved road. It's a dirt road that's heavily rutted, and during the rainy season, which is occurring right now, the only way to get through it to the next town is on an ox cart. They need to get to the next town if they're going to go to high school, if they're going to get medical care, if they're going to get transportation to go to work. So it's a critical thing for them. The trouble is the cost. It's over $1 million. It's interesting. The community has been just harping on this road since we first came in there. And we know there's other needs that we can accomplish much easier. But we had to respect the fact that the community wasn't ready to move on. They're now ready to move on. And we're working with the mayor and the community in trying to develop a piping system to bring in a dependable water supply. Right now, what happens during the dry season is the only way they can get water is they bring water trucks in twice a week. Some of the gaps and some of the challenges that Kairos is not really good in community development. That's not, I'm sorry, in economic development. They're really good in community development and developing community skills, but they really aren't strong in economic development. One of the lessons we just learned, they organized a leadership group, and they've had real problems with it. People join the leadership group, they're excited, and after about a year, interest wanes and they start to become inactive. And they've done this twice. So Rick Heideck, who's now the chair of Fast for Hope, and I were down there in December, and we met with the remnants of the leadership group. And what we realized in a meeting is they were following historical patterns of looking to the elders, looking to the traditional leaders to be part of this leadership group for this initiative. And when I realized that, I told them, and I should pause, we have a steering committee for Fast for Hope. The steering committee consists of 4 past district governors, our incoming district governor, our district governor-elect, and a couple other people. And we report directly to the board of directors of the district. What I told them was when we formed the steering committee, there's 3 criteria we had. One is they had to support the initiative. If they don't support the initiative, don't invite them on. 2, you want people who are optimists. You don't need pessimists, naysayers when you're meeting. I mean, you want people who think they can make a difference and make a change. And 3rd, I told them, find people you like to be with. No one wants to go to meetings with people you don't like. And so they took that charge to heart. And they formed a new leadership group. And I'll get to that in a second. Back in 2013, Vicki Dilly from the Hudson Rotary, the Northfield Rotary Club, was telling me, next time you go to Nicaragua, you've got to meet this woman from our club who's down there in Grenada by the name of Geraldine Sheehan. So Vicki kept hammering me on it. So the next time I went down there, I went down early and we spent 2 days with Geraldine. Geraldine's with Opportunity International. Opportunity International generally does micro lending around the world. But they had a benefactor who said they want to create a new model to deal with economic development, and they sent Geraldine down to Nicaragua to start to create the model. And when I went down there, I was blown away by it. They formed their own separate board of directors for what they're doing in Nicaragua. We've been trying to find a way that we can work together. What they've done is around the equator, yucca is a root crop that's very popular. It's a staple like a potato. The poor people grow it. It is very perishable. Once it's harvested, it starts to spoil within about 48 hours, but they can keep in the ground for up to 6 weeks. Traditionally, the growers of this would be at the mercy of the food brokers because they had to sell it so quickly. So Opportunity International came down and started working with the farmers, started teaching new agricultural techniques, started teaching them, started developing new strains of drought-tolerant crops. And then what they did is, with this donor, they created the first food-grade certified processing plant of yucca in Latin America. So the food grade, A grade is for human consumption. You can buy on the grocery shelves. They dip that in paraffin. They get that to the market right away. But then they can process the rest of it. So it's either a flour that they use as a food supplement, like a gluten-free, or they use it in animal feed, or they use it in manufacturing. And Cargill has told them they'll buy as much of that as they can produce. They've also started a school. It's a high school. It's the only high school in the country in which the students get both a high school degree and a vocational certificate. The two vocational tracks are in agriculture and hospitality, which are the two main areas of commerce in Nicaragua. For the kids who are on the agricultural track, they have a 20-acre farm on site. The kids work in that in the afternoon. They learn current agricultural techniques, and the crops that they grow, the products they generate, they then sell to local restaurants to help support the school. Opportunity also went out and built a luxury resort, small boutique hotel of about 25 rooms on the rim of a volcanic lake outside of Granada. It's a beautiful facility. I've stayed there. The kids who are on the hospitality track then intern at the hotel so that they get experience working in a luxury hotel and can talk about that when they graduate. And the hotel only needs about a 40% occupancy rate, which is very low for the hotel industry, so that the profits from the hotel can then go back to support the school. I'm going to try to turn on a video here. This may be a bit of a challenge, but let me see if I can do it. Let's see. Because we're in this view, it's not.
If you hover over the link and then do a control and click, it should
There you
open
go.
up in your browser.
Control.
Or if you right click and then go to open link, you can do that method as well.
Isaac, I'm glad you're on the call. Let's see if this works. So, I mean, I've watched this video for dozens of times and I always get goosebumps because it really is impressive what they're doing in the way of economic development. So when Rick and I were down there in December, one of the reasons we went down there is that they had a meeting of their, OI Nicaragua had a meeting of their board of directors, and we met with them to talk about a future partnership. And one of the neat things about their board of directors is they've got two Rotarians on the board, one from Atlanta, Georgia, and the other one from the City of Lakes Club in Minneapolis, who I happen to know. So we talked about how we might be able to work with them and still continue with what we're doing with Kairos in El Corozo. And so and so what we did is we sent a delegation down in March. They came back just as, just in the nick of time, just as the country was starting to shut down. But they visited with OI, they visited with 2 Opportunity International Communities. We did a draft of an outline of a Memorandum of Understanding, which has since been finalized. The plan is that we'll work with OI. They're going to target key in on 2 particular communities that we can start to walk with them as they start to do their economic development. And work together at the same time. We're really, in El Cados, the leadership group has really come back together. They got an energized leadership group. They seem to be making big strides. The mayor's made it very clear to them that they're not going to get a road anytime soon, but he has agreed to work with them in trying to identify a source of water so they can address their water system. So OI is excited to work with Rotary for the obvious reasons. It gives them exposure. They hope that if this is successful, that other Rotary districts are going to want to get involved with them. They can regrow this model to other parts of the world. They were talking about trying to take it into Colombia, but they decided right now they wanted to hold off on doing that. We're excited about it because we think we can learn a lot about economic development. We know we can. We're already seeing how they evaluate a community, how they measure success, how they measure whether or not they're the right outcomes, how they work with the community. We think there's a ton we can learn from them. So we're really excited about that opportunity. So I'm going to ad lib a little bit here because there have been some recent developments in the last week or 2, including today, that I think you want to hear about. Back in March, Daniel Ortega, the president of Nicaragua, was denying that COVID-19 was an issue for Nicaraguans. He said it was going to be the scourge of capitalist countries, but that God would protect God-fearing countries like Nicaragua. So he's been a deep level of denial. As of about 2 weeks ago, they were claiming there are only 81 cases and about 8 deaths in the country. But other independent groups have come in and the numbers are probably 10 times that. The local Nicaraguans are starting to recognize that there are problems, that this isn't just happening to capitalist countries. They're seeing people in hazmat suits going into hospitals, pulling out bodies, and then the government claimed they died of pneumonia or cancer. There's a high level of concern. Even a couple of weeks ago when Elena would go to El Carosa, maybe about 3 weeks ago, she asked if they wanted to bring any kind of a face mask or anything. They said, no, they didn't need it. But what's happened the last 2 weeks is real awareness that there is an issue. And even in the rural parts of the country, people are becoming alarmingly concerned. So about 10 days ago, we were working with Elena and we were working with the leadership group. And even though it was raining very heavily, the leadership group would get together and we'd communicate back and forth by telephone. And so what Kairos has done is they've assembled 120 kits of personal protective supplies, about 8, 9 items, basic things like hand disinfectant, soap, dish soap, hand soap, laundry soap, toothpaste, masks, disinfectant to wipe down the doors and that. And we came together and the cost was about $31 a kit. There's about 120 families in the community. Our first concern was whether or not the community would accept that, but the leadership group was very convinced that they would, and they were right. Going to our premise that, we don't put money until the local Nicaraguans put money in, the leadership group decided to charge every family $80 cordobos for each kit, which comes to about $2.25. They felt that that was an amount that families could afford. They also agreed that they would provide free kits to 5 families. Those families were strictly elderly and they don't work and they didn't have a means to afford kits. And so we're going back and forth. And one of the questions we asked was, what are you going to do with the $2.25? There's a real concern there's going to be a food scarcity coming up. Again, people live in extreme poverty. They're working in factories. As the rate of infection spreads, it's probably going to become unsafe to work. People are going to lose their jobs. They won't have a means to feed themselves. We anticipate that we're going to have to help them in that regard. So one of the things the community leaders decided to do is take that $2.25 and save that to help fund a feeding program if we need to do that. They've set up a very specific program of how those kits are distributed. They're engaging in social distancing. They're going to develop a system of inventory so they can keep track of who has the kits. They even had a backup plan that if not everybody wanted to buy kits, they'd give them 2 weeks. And if they didn't, then they're going to go to the neighboring community and make them available in the same terms. Last Tuesday and Thursday, the kits got brought in. Because it's starting to rain, we couldn't get in one trip and do it all as fast as we wanted. But I got an email from Elena this morning saying that of the 120 kits, 100 have already been distributed to communities. The people are extremely grateful. They expect the other 20 kits will be distributed and sold this week yet. The elderly people who got the kits for free were just overcome with the fact that people were thinking about them and providing for them. And unfortunately, they've been taking photos. We can't get them out because the internet's not working very well with all the weather. But there's a great deal of gratitude for how we're working together to try to help the community. So we're trying to be responsive, and we're really pleased seeing how the leadership group is starting to come together and really starting to be proactive and trying to make a difference in the community. We're really excited about the partnership with Opportunity International. We heard a presentation by the in-country director, David Cohen, last Thursday night of what they're doing down there. They're trying to be creative. They're trying to do more remote, people working remotely from home, students learning remotely. They're also providing personal protective equipment, but they're continuing to be active in the communities. And we're hoping that come July 1st, we'll be able to start to be able to go with them shoulder to shoulder. So that we hope that you'll continue to support the initiative. We're really excited about it. Back when Kyle Haugen was the district governor, he did a survey of Rotarians, and what he found was that 29% of the Rotarians in our district want to be more involved in an international project. And so if you're interested in being part of a future delegation, I'm not sure when that will happen right now, but if you're interested, let Rick Heidick know of your interest so he can keep you informed. We've had 60 different Rotarians from our district go down to Nicaragua. Everybody's been on the trip, has talked about what a life-changing experience it is. So I really encourage you to consider that. I would encourage you to, on the district website, we have a reading list. The books I've talked about are on that, as well as a number of other books. If you're interested in learning more about extreme poverty and kind of what causes it, I encourage you to start reading that. And with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Dave, thank you very much. Questions? Isaac, go ahead, sir.
So I have two questions. Early in your presentation, you mentioned that back when Fast for Hope started, clubs were taking one meal a year and donating that amount to Fast for Hope, in addition to what they were doing above and beyond that. So the first question is, are clubs still doing that? And then my second question is, you mentioned Opportunity International, and I'd never heard of that. But going back to my days in Rotaract, we were aware of an organization called Kiva, which I know is no longer reputable anymore because of some scams and some microfinance issues that became very public. But my second question is, how is Opportunity International being audited to make sure that Opportunity International doesn't fall into the same situation that Kiva did several years ago?
The first question about fasting, what some clubs still continue to do is that one meal a year, they just serve a very simple meal like soup. That's what the St. Paul Rotary Club does. Unfortunately, whenever I go to speak at the St. Paul Rotary Club, that's the meal for the day, and most of the members have figured it out, so a lot of them don't even bother to show up. And I've had a lot of meals where I go to present where my meal is soup, but that's what a lot of them do. To go to your question about Opportunity International, I guess I have not necessarily gotten to the kind of details you're talking about, Isaac. What I know is what I see what they're doing. What I see what they're doing in Nicaragua. I know the people that are on the board of directors. One of them I know quite well people like Muffy McMillan of Cargill is on the board of directors. They're very active. As far as Rotary goes, we're going to get an accounting of how our money is being used. Our money that's going to go in is going to be used specifically for projects. They will be giving us an accounting of how they do that so we can keep track of it. I suppose the way to check it out would be to go to some of these charity review boards and see how they review Opportunity International. I guess I've just never thought of it. I've never felt the need because we've had Rotarians involved with it from the beginning, and I've been impressed with the results. Maybe I'm naive.
Thanks, Dave. Any other questions?
I do apologize for the technical glitches. It's amazing. I gave the same program yesterday, Hayward. I pushed the same buttons and it worked flawlessly. So I don't know what's going on.
It's Isaac.
Yeah. Blame the guy who needs a haircut.
Thanks.
Well, Dave, thank you for the update today. I appreciate your time. And unless there's something else, I will adjourn the meeting. Randy, sir? Yes, sir. Oh, you're just waving by? All right. Otherwise, we'll be back same time, same place next week, same channel. Please join in. Everybody have a good week and thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good week, all.